Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Scaling with SaaS. I'm Johnny, and today I am chatting with Emily Assender, who's the COO and the co-founder of Revelesco. Did I get the pronunciation right?
That's it. Correct.
Okay, cool. So, hey, Emily, great to have you on the show, and thank you for putting the time aside to talk to us and our community. So, look, let's just jump right into it. Tell us who you are and tell us what Revelesco is and does.
My name is Emily Assender. I am, as you said, the co-founder and COO of Revelesco. So my career started in finance, but for over the past 10 years, I've been focusing in SaaS, in strategic partnerships mainly, but also in go-to-market strategy, which has normally been centered around helping businesses scale internationally and into new territories. My co-founder, Pete Crosby, he's also a revenue strategist and a CEO coach, an advisor. He is a four times successful revenue leader in SaaS. He's got over 20 years experience as well. We've been working together for the past 10 years in different SaaS startups. About 4 to 5 years ago, we both went independent, but we kept working together, and that's how Revelesco was formed.
That was awesome. Cool. Great. So two great minds think alike and join forces. Very unique name. Has it got like a meaning or like a background to it?
Yeah. So Revelesco actually, it means, so Velesco is the Latin for continuous growth. And obviously we're all about predictable revenue. So there's also a word which I found really difficult to say, which Pete loves. And it sounds something like Reveresco. Actually made more sense because it's continuous growth. And so, yeah, it made sense to call it Revelesco.
I love that.
Yeah, we work with SaaS businesses normally between series A to C, but they're normally slightly bigger than the companies you work with. So they'll be doing between 5 million US dollars to 50 million US dollars in annual recurring revenue. And normally we come in at a point when, let's say, for instance, their sales have stagnated. The SaaS business will look to their revenue leader, so their VP of sales or the CRO, and they'll think if they're not bringing in revenue, they think that they have a sales problem. So they normally fire the CRO or fire the VP of sales. But what we found is that actually it's about the interlocking components of sales, customer success, marketing, product that actually enable the business to function correctly as a whole. And so until we understand what the root cause is, and until we understand how to align the entire strategy, only then can we start ensuring that we can get predictable revenue.
You know what? You've just answered one of my other questions there. And I was going to ask you about, how do you identify the right startups or companies within that sort of your seed series then? How do you identify? What's your defined ICP as such? You did more or less answer it, but do you want to drill down into that a little bit more?
Yeah, for us, we work with SaaS businesses that are doing between 5 to 50 million in ARR. We work with the CEOs within those businesses. The projects that we run always need to be led by the CEO because one, it's an investment, but two, a lot of these decisions come down to the decisions that need to be made by the CEO. For example, what does the buyer journey look like? What should the narrative be? All of these different things. So we work with the CEO, but we also work with the senior leadership team. And the way we work is we speak to their senior leadership team. We understand the gaps that are preventing them from scaling. And then based on their gaps, we recommend them different projects. What Pete and I have done is over the past 10 years, we've created around 12 different frameworks. And these frameworks can be used at any stage of a SaaS business as they scale. And the reason these frameworks are so important is because if you are a CEO and you're scaling your business, and you need to understand the right answer for the decision that you're about to make, but you want to understand how do I make that choice and how do I make it quickly? That's what these frameworks are for. And so what Revelesco do is we've got these frameworks, we package them within our methodology, which is called whole revenue strategy. And then what makes this unique is that we have consultants that are experts in each function that you would need inside a SaaS business. And what we do is every month we have something called a revenue surgery. So we'll bring those experts together. We look at our client's problem, and that enables the client to actually get access to a team worth of expertise, which would cost them, 4 or 5 million a year to actually have. But they can actually get access to the expertise. And then wherever their biggest problem is, we place that consultant on that problem to fix it.
Fantastic. I love that framework idea. It just makes life a lot more easier. And of course, there's predictable outcomes. You guys have been there. You've dealt with all manner of founders at all manners of stages. I mean, look, how do you typically connect with these clients then? Do you monitor insights? I mean, how does that work? That's really cool stuff.
You mean connect from like an outbound? Like, how do we get
Yeah.
clients?
Yeah, I mean, naturally, you've got a beautiful website. I mean, they're going to fall on there and want to talk to you right away, especially when they find out about that framework and all that expertise. But I mean, how do you typically connect with your ICP, because you must have loads to go on.
It's really interesting because we officially launched Revelesco a year ago and it's been incredibly successful. It's grown way faster than we thought it would grow. And it's been all through word of mouth so far. Yeah, so we haven't actually done a lot of outbound at all. It's all been through word of mouth. As I said, Pete's a CEO coach, so he has a lot of connections. He's got a great following anyway. He did a lot of thought leadership. We've basically been maxed out working on customers and clients who we already know within our network. But what we're doing differently this year is, so over the past few years, we've always held some sort of annual customer drinks or client drinks or something like that. But this year, because I live in Tarifa, which is just the most inspirational location, I actually went on a whale watching tour and I took 10 friends whale watching. It was for my birthday. And you go in this little rib and you're like immersed in the ocean and you have 50 pilot whales and they're upside down and they're looking at you. And it's just the most inspirational, stunning thing. You have Morocco on one side, Spain on the other. And it's just like beautiful weather, sunsets, everything. And when I came back from that trip, I was so inspired. And I said to Pete, wouldn't it be incredible if we could create that inspiration for all of our CEOs? If we brought all of our CEOs together, got them to a level where they felt so inspired, and then at the same time, we were able to solve their most critical business challenges, wouldn't that be an amazing thing?
Absolutely.
And so what we decided to do was I went out to speak to all of our CEO contacts and I said, would this be of interest to you if we created this event, and did that? And all of them came back and said yes. And so what we're doing is we've launched an event called the Whole Revenue Summit, which is going to be held in Tarifa this year on the 5th and 6th of June. And it's for 70 CEOs at SaaS startups between 5 to 50 million in ARR. And we're going to be solving their most critical problems.
I mean, you have to get that on camera. That sounds amazing. Really.
Yeah.
So we're talking typically word of mouth, past portfolio of clients, both yourself and Pete. Hopefully these cool, super inspirational corporate events then where they get to
Yeah,
get
exactly. We've got Jeffrey Moore speaking. I don't know if you know Jeffrey Moore. He's the author of Crossing the Chasm, which is one of the most famous books in SaaS. He's based in Silicon Valley and he's a legend
and he's coming over to the same event in June.
yeah, he's creating a lot of buzz for it actually for us because he's just incredible, his mind.
Superb. I'll keep my eyes peeled on that one. That'd be amazing. Cool. I mean, look, blown away by that bit. I mean, I wanted to check your understanding of this. So look, founders can be quite protective of their baby. I mean, how do you build that trust? So say, you've just been referred to a potential client, a prospect, you've done a little bit of due diligence in the background to think, well, we can do a job on this one. We can definitely turn this around, or we can take this to the next level. I mean, how do you build their trust? Because they think they're doing it great, maybe, but I'm probably talking about a small segment of the market that don't realize they need help.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that because the thing that we hear most often from our CEOs is leaders don't know what they don't know. And they feel like that. And the role of a CEO is unthinkably hard. And the only way that we at Revelesco can credibly deliver these frameworks is by making sure that they are taught by people who are experts in their field and that they've done it again and again. The CEO doesn't need to know you have a problem. The CEO wants to know, out of all of these problems, what do I need to prioritize? How do I actually answer the question? And how do I do it really quickly? If we can help them with that to move the needle in the right direction to predictable revenue, then that's success.
Right. You've got so much social proof as well. And like you said, been there and done it, and it's a predictable blueprint. I love that. Superb. Okay, well, look, talk us through how you get founders to step back from being the main sales driver. It's tricky. How would you get them to sort of, because the topic is all about scaling beyond founder-led sales, right? So how you get them to step back from being the main sales driver in the business.
Yeah. And it's interesting because one of the things you said, obviously, it's often their baby. And I was chatting to a CEO the other day, and he's at exactly this stage, actually, where he's got one salesperson and he's thinking about hiring another salesperson in Australia. And he's saying, he's saying, but my salesperson isn't confident. Like, why aren't they confident? I need them to do what I'm doing. And so what the CEO needs to understand is they're looking for signs of predictability. And it's not necessarily, they don't need this salesperson to be copying what they're doing word for word. They need to reverse engineer the steps that they're doing to create success. And then they need to be able to have that salesperson understand what those steps are and also create that predictability. Yeah.
Very easier said than done, but think the reverse engineering, I think sometimes when they map it all out, I mean, look, that salesperson is never going to be the CEO. There's nobody that's going to jump on and be so passionate and know the intricacies of the product the way that they do. But if you can template it as such,
It's all about frameworks. If you can, exactly, yeah, create a framework that works. Exactly. And then the other thing is also what we've seen a lot of, like another problem that happens is as soon as you start to get sales in, the business gets very excited and it starts to sell to a whole bunch of different ICP criteria. And the problem with that is it dilutes their messaging and it makes it really, really difficult when somebody lands on the website to understand, okay, what do you actually do? Is this relevant to me? And so one of the key things is as you're thinking about starting to hire people, you need to understand, is that person really clear on who we solve the pain for and how we solve that pain? Because if they're not, then they're going to probably sell some stuff. It's probably not going to be the right fit. It's going to make it really difficult for the customer success team to then fulfill that because they're not expert in this area that you're not meant to be selling to also. And then also from a product point of view, the product might not be quite right. So then it might probably more likely to churn. From a marketing point of view, the messaging isn't really quite going to land. It affects everything. And I think that's really what it comes down to at Revelesco is we understand that it's not just up to the salesperson. You need to make sure that everything is completely interlinked. It's a bit like a human body. You have all of the different organs that then you're not going to have a healthy body, just like a healthy organization.
Absolutely. Good analogy. I mean, do you get much pushback from founders where it's like, okay, well, look, we got sales coming in. Say they've got the wrong ICP. Look, we got sales, we got revenue coming in. The success team could just cope with it. We'll just work it out. Rather than say, look, no, that wasn't a right fit. They're not the right fit. Turn the business down. Let's stick to the plan. Let's stick to your ICP. Let's change the targeting. Let's change the messaging. Do you get much pushback?
It's funny because there was someone else I was chatting to recently. They did exactly that. They actually sold to the wrong ICP and then they kind of ate their own hat. Is that a phrase that we use?
Yeah.
And they came to us and they said, look, we tried that. We tried selling to the ICP, but it was so difficult and it wasted time and we didn't make any money. And I think it goes back to they don't know what they don't know. They can try and do it this way and it might work or it might not work and it might take a whole lot of time and money, or they could trust the experts that can advise them on how to do it and get there faster.
Yeah, I mean, do you spend much time with them? I mean, of course you do. But I mean, about getting them to rediscover this ICP. Look, we've got these frameworks. They're there. They're tried and tested, right? Let's go back to the drawing board. Let's look at all the successes. Let's look at who you guys love to sell to, where the product works the best for. Do you help them to rediscover that avatar and through the framework then?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, understanding that ICP is often one of the first areas we might look at. And so it's really interesting because you can kind of understand whether they've got a problem really early on. And the way you understand is if you were to ask separately every single person on their leadership team, how would you describe your value proposition? And who do you solve it for? More often than not, they're going to all say something completely different.
Your framework, right? I mean, do you help with the targeting, or is it just purely your consultation strategy at this point? Or do you say, well, look, hey, we've identified this avatar, this ICP, we're going to do a done for you or done with you service? I mean, what happens from there? Or do you just leave them to their own devices with just this framework to follow?
Yeah, no, it's heavy lifting and it takes a lot of thought and effort. And it's a combination of them going away and doing the work themselves, but being guided by us or the experts in whichever field it is through the framework. Because the thing is, there are so many frameworks available online. Making a framework useful is about understanding how to use it. And you need to rip it apart and tear it apart and make it useful for your business, because everybody inside and every single business is unique in that they have different resources available. So whilst you may have two very similar businesses, let's say they're direct competitors, their structure of the teams, let's say the marketing team and the SDR team and the actual direct sales, whatever, they might be set up differently. They'll have different numbers of people. So you can't just put a framework or a blueprint on a business and say, this is how it's going to work for you. You need to understand what resources do we have available in order to make this framework useful, and how far along are we already and how close are we to winning or not. So often with an ICP, I mean, we start working with businesses normally that are doing a little bit more than probably 5 million, as I said. We do work with businesses that might be doing 1 million as well, sometimes in a coaching capacity. But at that point, they will have enough data to really understand their ICP. So we have a framework called the 9-box method, where we look at lots of different things, including unique attributes. And the outcome of that is that we want that business to be able to produce a list of, let's say, 100 ICP target customers, where they can be sure that if they were to pick up the phone and speak to every single one of those businesses, then there would be absolutely no reason for them to say no.
Fantastic. Cool. I love that. And that degree of confidence as well. That'd be fab. Cool. I mean, I love all this ICP stuff. I mean, just to throw this back at you, are you using your own playbook for Revelesco? You guys go wide nets, right? There's so many. I mean, look, you just talked about you work with some businesses that go up to 1 million, right? But then you prefer the stuff in the middle, right? Where they've got a defined ICP, they've got case studies, they've got all that great social proof, the product market fit is nailed on. But I mean, are you putting that into play yourself and you're using your own playbook to scale? Is that the plan this year, maybe?
It's a very interesting question. It's a bit like asking someone, when you do something out of habit, what are you doing? Like, you need to kind of, like, when you know something so well, like, yeah, of course we're going to be doing this. And I'm just trying to think, if we were to reverse engineer what we're doing, are we doing it?
Has it been tough growing Revelesco then? Has it been a good old grind, or has it just been, wow, everything we touch turns to gold this last year?
It's been really successful. And I think the reason why is that we didn't just come up with the idea and then try it. It's been a long time coming, and it's almost created itself. So as I said, so Pete, my co-founder and business partner, he already coaches 40 CEOs. And a lot of the projects that he'd be working on with their teams were the ones that I was working on with them at the same time. So naturally, we formed Revelesco together. Our ICP is the CEO at a SaaS business doing 5 to 50 million in ARR. Their pain is they don't know what they don't know. It's an incredibly competitive landscape. They need to understand how to prioritize the problems that they have and make decisions on those, and they need to make them fast. So how can they do that?
Trusted framework, back-end expertise. Sounds good. I mean, look, you just mentioned 40 clients there, plus all the natural growth that's jumped in this year. Pete's workload, your workload. I mean, how do you keep the quality high when you're juggling all of these different startups or these different companies that are in different phases? How do you manage that? I know you've got a great team behind you, but
it's an ongoing learning thing, isn't it? Because one of the amazing things about working with these businesses is that they're all really smart. They're all full of smart people, and they all have a growth mindset. It's the nature of being in SaaS, right? And so we're learning from them as well. So recently we had one client where it was really clear to us that one of the problems they were having was just they needed to communicate way more internally, because they were making all of these decisions and trying to act in silo and roll all these projects out, but they weren't able to execute them successfully because they weren't communicating internally enough. And as we're growing our business, so many different things are popping up in all of these different areas. So something that is really important to us is to make sure that all of our leaders at Revelesco are continuously informed on all of the different projects that we're working on. So this summit that we're producing this year, we have a network of around 1,000 CEOs at SaaS businesses who I'm speaking with at the moment. We only want 70 to attend. And so all of the other CEOs that we speak to, how are we making sure that we're nurturing them and giving them information afterwards or during, or helping them in any way we can? And also make sure that we're figuring out how to maintain relationships with all of these CEOs. And so that's my job right now. Pete's making sure that all of our clients are looked after. He's working with every single one of our advisors to make sure that we're fulfilling all of the things that we need to and that they're getting results.
Sounds cool. Sounds you're on top of things. I mean, I'm just thinking about the whole summit event now coming up. I mean, I'm just wondering how you could still service that sort of middle funnel in real cool, reciprocal, high value content from it, snippets, recorded speeches, I can see what you're doing. Cool. Well, look, SaaS is moving really fast, right? I mean, you've just mentioned how you juggle everything there. I mean, do you have your own internal tech stack that you sort of use for, monitoring insights, efficiency? Are you using any sort of AI within your tech stack to sort of ease the burden, the heavy lifting in between?
Yeah, we all use ChatGPT. That's a real obvious one. A lot of what we do is project work, and our clients and their projects are the most important thing. I mean, we use Ghost, Substack from a marketing point of view. We're looking at HubSpot for our CRM and email nurture for this event. We have Slack, but from an analytics point of view, we're not scaling at that point yet. We have particular revenue goals, but we're not a mass market product. We work with a select number of businesses, and it's quite manageable.
What has got you excited about 2025? What's exciting you within the world of SaaS right now? It could be a client that you're working with. It could be a change within your own team. Apart from the summit, obviously, what's making you really excited right now?
Yeah, what I find really interesting at the moment is, and it is born from doing a lot of research for the event, but because we work with CEOs, we're having to really understand the key challenges that CEOs are facing inside their businesses. And one of the most interesting areas, which surprised me at first, but then on reflection, I was not surprised, is that every CEO we speak to wants to understand how they can be better within their whole role, how they can find balance as a CEO inside and outside of work. Because being a CEO is unthinkably hard and they're having to manage all of these different things. And so I'm really interested in how CEOs are coping. Some are not coping. It's really, really difficult. It's really, really common. And because it directly impacts, if the CEO really needs to prioritize themselves, because if they are not operating at a high enough level, then the company cannot operate correctly. They need to be the inspirational leader. The next step is, can they then align their leadership team? That's a really, really critical thing, because often as you scale as a SaaS business, you get new leadership that adds on. Some are a lot more qualified because the business is at a much bigger size at that point. So they've managed to hire someone at a much higher level, but at the same job role as somebody else who may not be so high. And so you have these different competing leaders inside the senior leadership team, and that can sometimes cause misalignment. So actually creating that alignment and culture is really important, because then that filters down to the rest of the business. And then like the third pillar of this is your individual contributors. And so how are you actually making sure that as the business scales, you're continuously enabling them to be talking about the company or the product in the right way. Even when you add new people to the business, or even the more original people, the salespeople, they'll be selling one part of the product really well. And often they don't necessarily change or adapt as that product grows. So yeah, I find it, from a human element, I find it really interesting, the challenges, because as you say, AI is a big thing. Everybody's talking about it. They're talking about what is it going to replace from a human perspective, and the automation, like what can we automate? But we also need to be thinking about how can we now leverage creativity and the human element, because I personally think that what's going to happen next is we need to rely more on relationships. We need to really understand how can we genuinely add value, but the way we're going to win is by connecting with our audience.
True. 100%. I think that's a really nice way of putting it all. And I think you're not trying to sell to everyone. You're just trying to sell to a certain small, defined little sort of cluster, and you're all on the level. You're all on the level. And I think that whole mind, body, and soul sort of outlook to CEOs, you're right. I mean, some people don't cope very well. Some people have got that great balance in work and outside of work. And if you can filter that sort of culture through all the way down the management tree, all the way down to the bottom end staff, I think that would be fantastic. I mean, is that in the blueprint now? Have you added that within the framework, or is that something that you want to do more of? I know you do lots of individual coaching with CEOs, but is it all business to sort of, keep realigning their mindset?
So as an example, when we work with a business and we identify that one of their projects that they need to work on is sales enablement, within that project charter, it won't just be about enabling the sales team. We'll look at everything as a whole. We'll look at the leadership for the sales team and how is that aligned, and the culture behind that. And that includes everything around what is the company's vision? Is the CEO aligning everybody and making sure that they're in line with it? Then the next pillar will be, we're looking at the actual, I think what you do as well in your business, and a really critical thing is, what are their actual sales skills? Like how good are they at actually understanding the steps to close or negotiate, or even, handling objections or whatever, all of this kind of stuff. And then the third pillar is actually the stuff that's directly related to your company itself. So the narrative, the thought leadership in their specific industry. So there's kind of these three key areas of culture, sales enablement, and then thought leadership, that they need to be spinning these plates in order to have successful enablement overall.
I mean, look, if you can productize that or put that into a repeatable, predictable flow, all the better, especially from our point, from the sales enablement point of view. That allows you to scale and scale well. Cool. So look, we've talked a bunch, right? I just want to end this out on, is there any clients or brands that you work with at the moment now that's got you really excited that you can, you'd like us all to look out for, or is it all still in the wraps and, NDAs? We can't talk about clients. We can't talk about what's going on, but we're just excited. We'd love to know the story between one case study you've got about to launch or to go big.
We are working with one client called Panzura in the US, which is really interesting. They've been doing a phenomenal job. We originally started working with them maybe over a year ago. They were going through a CEO transition at that point, and through working with Revelesco, they were able to increase their revenue by 450%. But more than that, what we're now doing is working with them every single month for over a year, individual different leaders within their business. Every single one of their leaders is exceptional. They're inspirational. But when you go through such a significant change, like a CEO transition, and then you need to turn that ship around. It's creating that alignment and having that support is really, really helpful. So working with them has been really, really fun. Alva Labs as well in Sweden. Again, they are a phenomenal business, really, really interesting space. I'd look at them as well. We're really proud of all of our clients. They're all on the website.
What would you tell any founders that have dialed in to watch this now? I mean, what would you tell any founders who are thinking about scaling? I mean, have you got any quick wins? Have you got any important mindset insights? I mean, what tips and advice would you give them other than to give you guys a call?
When CEOs and founders understand that leaders don't know what they don't know, and when they understand that it's actually relatively easy to get access to the right information in these specific areas, it can make things happen so much faster. But actually, when you look at using a framework-driven approach, it saves them so much time because they're able to make the decision faster, and it's the right decision.
Brilliant. So adopting frameworks, learning from people who've been there and done it, and getting that degree of predictability and speed with the decision making. Love that. Cool. So look, it's been amazing to link up and to talk to you, Emily. It's been really cool. Is there anything that you want to say now to anybody that's listening, whether it's a plug for Revelesco, or do you want to talk about the summit, or anything we can sort of put you on a pedestal?
For any CEO or founder listening that is working in a SaaS businesses that is doing between 5 and 50 million in ARR, or even it will be useful if you're doing slightly less than that and looking to scale to that level, we would love for them to look at attending the whole revenue summit in Tarifa this June 5th and 6th.
Got you. Cool. And what we're going to do as well for the guys that are listening, we will speak with Emily and the team. If you guys can share any links or any landing pages, we will gladly put that. We'll attach it to the episode, and maybe we'll put that on our blog in some shape or form. But yep, just share that good stuff and we'll do what we can. Definitely.
It's been great talking to you.
Cool. So Emily, that is it for the show. Thank you very much for your time. Superb.